Hi again, everybody. In this second video, we're going to look at the same system that we looked at before, the Atwood system. But in this case, we're going to consider an open system. Okay. So previously, we said that an isolated system was a system where energy cannot leave. By contrast, open systems are systems where energy can leave. And that usually happens as a result, most often, of friction. And what will happen, so typically you have friction in the system, typically friction. And what friction typically does is it takes some of the energy from the system and it converts it into heat. And once that energy is converted into heat, it can no longer be kind of like recaptured into the system's kinetic energy or potential energy. Okay. All right, so the theory of this would be we're going to have the same starting point. We're going to say that we're going to start with work. And we write this statement like we did before that says that the net work that's done in the system is going to be partially done by conservative forces like gravity and springs, but it also could be done by non-conservative forces. And I guess for this example, let's just think about friction, okay, as being a non-conservative force. So a non-conservative force that does not have any type of potential energy. There's no frictional potential energy, right? Another example of a non-conservative force would be an applied force from a person. There's no potential energy function that corresponds to me or you, right? So there are a lot of non-conservative forces in the world. All right. So now let's go and let's continue. Let's separate things out the way we did before. And so we replace work net with a change in kinetic energy. I'll just write change in K. And the work done by the conservative forces is going to be equal to some negative change in potential energy. And okay, for work done by non-conservative forces, I'm going to just say that that's going to be equal to a negative change in some other type of energy. And I'm going to use the symbol here, Q. And Q is heat, thermal energy. All right, so Q is thermal energy. It's just another word for heat, right? And that is a form of energy, but thermal energy is not mechanical energy, right? Because it's not potential, it's not kinetic. All right, so then we've got that. Let's pull the terms over to the same side. So you've got change in kinetic plus change in potential plus change in thermal. And when you bring all those terms to the left side, they have to add up to 0. And so this statement is actually kind of saying, well, that's telling me that energy is still conserved, but now I have a new bucket to put it into, right? I've got this delta Q bucket. So there's one more place the energy can go. But overall, if you have a change in one form of energy, the other two have to make up for the difference. They have to compensate for it. And without showing all the details again, what I'm just going to say is, again, we can take this statement here and we can break it down and we can put all the initial terms on one side. So all the initials, kinetic, potential, and thermal energy that you start with, and those should be equal to final energies. Okay, and usually you don't really solve problems where you're starting with thermal energy, excuse me. So usually this term is typically 0. And what that means is that you have a system oftentimes in physics problems where you start off with kinetic and or potential energy, and then that energy will transform into kinetic and potential and some heat. So I'm going to draw a box around this equation because this is really also a pretty useful equation. just like it was before for isolated systems. But remember, the initial thermal energy is typically 0. Okay, so let's come back to this example of the side pull Atwood machine. I did make a change here though, and you'll notice I took the wheels off the 2 kilogram object, and instead I'm going to have it slide across this nice rough floor, and let's give this a coefficient of kinetic friction of 0.4. Okay, and we're really going to go for the same question here. We want to find the final velocity of the system, right? And so what we're looking for is we're looking to see this top object slide forward, right? And then it's going to have some type of a final velocity. And then this bottom block is going to slide down or fall down. And just before it hits the ground, right, just before it hits, it's going to have a final velocity too. Of course, after it hits, it stops, but we're interested just before it hits. So that's going to let us set up our equation. And so I'm going to write my kinetic energy plus potential energy initial should be equal to the kinetic energy plus potential energy plus thermal energies final. Okay. For reasons we discussed before, the initial kinetic energy is 0. That's great. And for reasons which we discussed before, the initial potential energy would be simply, the one that we care about is going to be the one that comes from this 1 kilogram block. And I think the distance, what do we say? The height of this block was 3/4 of a meter. And so I think that energy turned out to be 7.35 joules. Okay. And so I just want to emphasize here that the energy of the system, the total energy of the system, is going to be that 7.35 joules, because that's what you start with. Now, let's see where that energy goes. So kinetic energy final, you're going to have 1/2 times what? Adding the masses, 1/2 times 3 times VF squared, plus the final potential energy, which we're going to say is 0, right? Because the 1 kilogram object hit the floor and the 2 kilogram didn't change. And then we're going to have some frictional energy that we have. And that energy, the work done by, the amount of frictional work is going to be, let's see, I'm going to circle this. That energy is going to be equal to work that gets done by friction. And so that's going to be equal to what? The force of friction times the distance that the top block is going to slide. Guys, we're going to count that as a positive here, right? Because those will be joules of thermal energy that you end up with. So when we calculate this number here, we're going to do the positive, right, of force of friction times distance. So what would we have for that? All right, so the force of friction is going to be the coefficient, 0.4, times the normal force on the 2 kilogram object. That normal force is going to be, what, 2 times 9.8. And we have to multiply by the distance. I'll just put it as d here because I'm going to run out of space. But the distance that top block slides is going to be the same distance that the bottom one falls. So that's times 3/4 of a meter. Okay, so let's see what that gives. Okay, so I'm going to run it on my calculator. I've got 0.4 times 2 times 9.8 times 0.75. And I end up with 5.88 joules. Okay, wow, that's a lot. So those are the joules that get converted into heat. Those are pure heat, okay? So let's keep track of everything here. We had 7.35 joules that we started with. And that's going to be equal to this kinetic energy, right? 3/2 V final squared plus heat. Okay, so again, this is total energy. This is thermal. And I hope you can see that we're going to have a lot less energy left for kinetic, right? Because whatever the kinetic is, you know, it's going to have to add to 5.88 to come up to the total of 7.35. When we solved this problem before, we didn't have any thermal energy, right? And all the kinetic energy was equal to 7.35. Now kinetic energy has to share with thermal. So we're going to have less, and that's going to mean the object is going to move slower. So that's a key idea there. The rest of this is just kind of the math. So we're going to subtract off 5.88 from 7.35. I'm getting 1.47 joules is equal to 3/2 V final squared. Okay, so we multiply by 3, divide by 2. So V final squared is equal to 2.205. And don't forget in these problems to take that square root at the end. That happens a lot in these. So my final velocity here, it looks like it's going to be about 1.48, say about 1.5 meters per second. So that's a lot slower than what we figured out before. So I'm going to just kind of scroll back, and before we got a final velocity of 2.2 meters per second. And that was because all of the 7.35 joules went into kinetic. But now what we're ending up with is only 1.5. And that's because we only had 1.47 joules going into kinetic. So that's how you solve these problems. We're using energy here. We're not using Newton's laws, right? We're not finding the acceleration of the system. And then we're not, working out the details to find the kinematics part. Energy conservation is like one-stop shopping. The whole problem got solved basically just with this one formula, and you just work it through. Energy is generally easier to use than Newton's second law plus kinematics, right? Because you could have solved this problem with Newton's second law of kinematics, but it would take several steps, 2 different steps to solve it. So energy generally is an easy way to solve problems if you can do it. All right, hope that helps.